When it comes to love, many people believe that the memory of a relationship is built mainly from beautiful moments, romantic gestures, or bursts of emotion. But if we look deeper, we will see that what makes someone remember you forever is not simply about concrete actions, but about the psychological impression you leave inside them. People don't remember everything that happened. They only remember what touched their deepest emotions. So, the important question is, what in human psychology makes someone, especially a woman, hold on to your image even as time goes by? And today, we will analyze and uncover the mysteries around this topic. One of the most powerful psychological mechanisms that makes someone hard to forget you is the sense of scarcity. People tend to value what they cannot easily have. When you are part of someone's life, but not constantly present, their mind begins to fill the gap with imagination. Why is this important? Because imagination is often stronger than reality. A person may forget an ordinary date, but they will forever remember the emptiness they felt when you were absent. This doesn't mean you should play games or create artificial distance. True scarcity only has meaning when you remain authentic. You have your own life, your own values, and you are not completely absorbed into another person's world. That is what makes you unforgettable. Why are women often more sensitive to this? Because their psychology is deeply tied to emotional connection. When that connection is no longer seamless, they feel the emptiness more intensely, and their mind locks onto it. That is why a woman can remember a single sentence you said during a period of absence, rather than a big gesture when you were together. Scarcity is not a tactic. It is simply the natural reflection of personal value. If you live a life worth remembering, others will struggle to forget you even if you never try to leave a mark. Another secret behind unforgettable memories is this: you don't leave behind events. You leave behind feelings. The mind rarely holds onto the exact details of conversations, but it remembers very clearly how someone made us feel. Ask yourself, what truly remains in memory after years pass? You may forget the exact words, but you will remember that you felt safe, listened to, respected. That is emotional resonance. When your state of being and the other person's state align so closely that they feel seen and understood. Women are especially sensitive to this. When they feel you recognize not just their surface, but also their depth, their memory fuses your image with that rare sense of being understood. Because true understanding is hard to find. Can emotional resonance be manufactured? The answer is no. You cannot pretend to listen or fake understanding. People immediately feel insincerity. Resonance only happens when you are fully present. When you set aside your own urge to prove yourself and genuinely care about their inner world. What makes you unforgettable is not the gift you gave, but the feeling you left them with. That is why resonance is a psychological secret, far more durable than any romantic strategy. People don't remember what is similar. They remember what is different. This is a basic principle of memory. If you are like everyone else, you are quickly forgotten. But if you reveal your differences, not through showmanship, but through honest individuality, your image carves itself into memory. Think about this. Why do we sometimes remember someone we met only once, while we can barely recall the faces of people we see daily? The answer often lies in difference, a distinctive way of thinking, a rare perspective on life, or a clear attitude can all become lasting imprints. For women, the most memorable difference often isn't physical. It lies in how you face yourself and others. If you can tell the truth calmly, or if you dare to reveal your vulnerability without fear of judgment, you become an image that is hard to duplicate. So, does difference mean you must always stand out? No. Trying to be different often backfires. What people truly remember is authenticity, and authenticity itself is already rare. Because so few people live it, this natural difference forms an imprint. And once an imprint is made in memory, it almost never fades. The human mind doesn't remember every detail of an experience. Instead, it remembers 2 points, the peak and the ending. This principle has been proven many times, and it explains why sometimes a brief moment matters more than an entire phase. Love works the same way. A regular conversation may vanish quickly, but if during your goodbye you said something that struck the heart, that moment becomes the memory point in the other person's mind. A woman may not recall the whole evening, but she will remember the way you looked at her when parting, or a single honest sentence you left behind. Why do endings or brief climaxes linger so much longer than intense hours together? Because endings carry closure. They shape the entire impression left in memory. If you leave a positive aftertaste or even an unfinished sense, your presence lingers much longer. This suggests something important. You don't have to make everything perfect. Just know that the mind is selective, and it is the peaks and endings that remain. With this awareness, you pay more attention to small moments that are often overlooked. Here is a lesser-known secret. People don't just remember what is pleasant, they also remember contradictions. When an experience holds both sweetness and confusion, both closeness and distance, it tends to etch itself deeper into memory. Why? Because the brain dislikes open loops. When a relationship feels unfinished, the mind keeps returning to it in search of resolution. This incompleteness fuels remembrance. Women, in particular, are strongly affected by this. When a man shows care, but also keeps his independence, it creates psychological tension. And this tension doesn't easily fade. It nurtures curiosity, longing, and the desire to understand more. Should you deliberately create contradiction to be remembered more? No. Artificial contradiction only causes fatigue. What truly matters is natural balance. You can show affection while keeping your individuality. When this balance comes from honesty, it becomes a lasting allure. That mixture, reachable yet elusive, turns you into a lasting presence in their mind. Ironically, in a world full of strategies and tactics for attraction, what makes someone remember you the most is authenticity. People may be briefly drawn to glamour, but in the long run, the mind preserves only what it believes to be real. Think, you might forget someone who showered you with endless compliments, but you struggle to forget someone who told you a truth you needed to hear. You might forget someone who tried too hard to make you laugh, but you won't forget someone who sat quietly and listened when you cried. Women are especially tuned into this when they sense you aren't trying to look better, aren't using words to buy affection, but are simply showing up as you are. They will remember that rare feeling, because authenticity doesn't just build trust, it carves a long-lasting mark in memory. Does authenticity risk being seen as weakness? Actually, the opposite. Because few people dare to be real, authenticity becomes a form of strength. It generates respect, and respect is what makes your image unforgettable. One overlooked truth: people remember each other most in absence, not in constant presence. When you're always around, they may grow used to you and take you for granted. But when you're gone, their mind works to fill the space with memories, imagination, and emotion. Why does this matter? Because longing only exists with distance. Without distance, the mind has no chance to replay your image. Women often feel this space more strongly, as their psychology is tied to emotional connection. When the connection breaks, they hold on to you in memory to preserve the bond. Does this mean you should create distance intentionally? Not exactly. What's essential is maintaining a life of your own. When you don't dissolve completely into the relationship, natural space emerges, and that space nurtures memory. Space is not abandonment. It's a reminder that two people are two worlds. And because they are separate, there is a need to remember, to return, to hold on. One of the strongest reasons you stay in someone's memory is when you show your vulnerability. In society, people often hide weakness to appear strong, but paradoxically, Those very moments of fragility make you unforgettable. Ask yourself, who do you remember, Mara, person who was flawless, or one who once revealed their tender side to you? We bond with what feels real by sharing vulnerability. You send a message, I trust you enough to show you this, and that trust leaves a lasting mark. Women, especially, hold on to such moments. They don't just remember what you did, but that you allow them to touch your true self. And once it happens, it becomes a permanent impression. Many think being remembered requires drama, bold gestures, but what endures longest is consistency. When your words and actions align, when your values remain steady across situations, you become an anchor in someone's memory. Why? Because most people are inconsistent, swayed by circumstances full of contradictions. When someone encounters steadiness, they feel grounded. That sense, over time, becomes unforgettable. Women particularly value this, not because they expect perfection, but because consistency gives safety. And safety is one of the hardest feelings to forget. Does consistency mean never changing? No, change is inevitable. But consistency here means holding on to core values, regardless of shifting contexts. And that is what makes the deepest impression, looking back. The psychological secrets that make someone remember you forever don't lie in tricks or tactics. They come from profoundly human elements: scarcity, emotional resonance, authentic difference. The peak and effect, natural contradiction, authenticity, space, shared vulnerability, and consistency. The most important lesson: you cannot force your place in someone's memory. You can only live truthfully, be present in real ways, and let your sincerity do the rest. What remains in someone's mind is not just about you, it's about how they felt when you were there. And if you found these reflections meaningful, I invite you to stay connected. Continue this dialogue by following, sharing, and staying tuned. Not as a mere act of support, but as part of an ongoing conversation about love, connection, and what truly makes us unforgettable to each other.